Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Polished Nerd podcast. I'm your host Oliver Kodrick and joining me is Matt Patterson.
Hello!
This is the podcast where we will be talking about comic books, movies, nerd culture in general. If you tuned in last week, you heard us bumble our way through the things that are coming out in 2018.
It was clumsy, perhaps.
That's one word for it. And so this week will be better, we're more focused, and actually the reason we decided to do this podcast in the first place was because back in December we both went to see a film.
We did. We went to see a film.
What film was that, Matthew?
That film was the much anticipated Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Yes. So
if only you could see Ollie scowling. He knows what's coming.
This film was... it was dog shit. It was painful to watch as a Star Wars fan. And we want to talk about what we thought about it. Now, when you first saw it, you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Because let's not say enjoyed. I tried to watch it objectively as a kind of a family film. At its heart, that's what it was. It was an easy watching family film, and I thought, well, that's not bad. And then kind of I was thinking about it, and then I got a fucking phone call from you at 12:30 at midnight.
I got out of the first viewing in Plymouth, and I was so angry I just had to phone Matthew.
Yeah, hello Ollie. What have they done to Star Wars, Matthew? So that was the thing. So yeah, I went to see it a second time, and then the problems came in. I was like, well, I started to notice all the little kind of the nuances. I was like, well, why is that happening? Yeah. Why is this happening? Why hasn't that happened? So maybe I don't hate it as much as other people do. I certainly think it was one of the weaker films in the entire saga. Yeah.
Now we're going to spend this. This might end up being episode 2, part 1.
We've got a hell of a list in front of us.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about
some positives. And some negatives. Some negatives.
And we will preference this by saying we understand that film is objective, and if you like this film, that's fine.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed the film, that's great. You know, we love Star Wars, and if people can find joy in it, then that's great.
But we hate it.
This is what we think about it.
Right. So we're going to go step by step through the plot of the film and explain what we felt when we heard it. Oh, when we saw it, not when we heard it.
So we're going to start at the beginning, because
it's a good place to start.
That's what beginnings are.
The title crawl was pointless. It summed up the point of Force Awakens.
Yes.
It was just... It didn't need... I mean, it needed to be there because it's a Star Wars.
It's a Star Wars film, and if it didn't have a title... Like, Rogue One didn't have a title crawl, I don't think.
No, it didn't. It just had just the Star Wars... story,
well,
Rogue
exactly,
One.
And that didn't have a title call, and people were upset about that. So it was always going to have a title call.
Didn't need
whether
one.
or not it needed one is another matter. So the film starts. They're evacuating.
It's literally seconds after the end of Force Awakens.
Yeah, I quite like that. I quite like that it's immediate.
Boom. Yeah.
So they're evacuating
Dakar. Which is the planet which the Rebel base was on in Force Awakens.
Yep.
The one that looked like Yavin but wasn't Yavin because it's new Star Wars.
New Star Wars, remember that.
It comes up again later.
So we get the whole thing where it's the entire Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
In is it still Rebel? It's Resistance.
Resistance,
now,
yeah.
Sorry.
The Galactic...
New Star Wars, everyone.
Yeah. We're going to be saying Rebel Alliance and Empire a lot.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So prepare for that. So we see the setup. It's 3 Rebel Mon Calamari frigates.
Yep.
Versus a fully armed Imperial fleet.
Yes.
This is a dumb, stupid, dumb setup.
Yes.
You're telling me that a fully armed Imperial fleet can't just kind of fly around 3 Mon Calamari frigates? A fleet that goes on to include Snoke's battleship, the most powerful ship in the in the Galactic Empire.
First Order. New Star Wars.
Almighty. And it can't outrun 3 pathetic little ships that are all underfueled and have no weapons.
Yes.
It's nonsensical. It's a setting for the sake of it.
Yeah, the basic premise of this movie is there are two ships chasing each other. They both fly at exactly the same speed, and the one in front is running out of fuel. That's kind of the entire plot of this movie.
What the hell Hux is thinking when he says, no, let's chase them?
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, so we'll start with details. It starts off, the fleet is trying to escape, and they send plucky young pilot, Poe Dameron, to distract the First Order with the joke from the beginning of Force Awakens. It's the same joke.
Now, this is one of the things I didn't mind on my first viewing. I thought that was quite funny. It's quite plucky. I stand by it. I think it's Poe Dameron. It's bold, daring Poe Dameron.
My biggest problem with this is, and it's not to do with this scene. If this scene was on its own, it would be fine. But the way this film handles Hux is...
Obviously, we'll get into that.
Yeah, but the Hux that we know from Force Awakens would have just blown Poe Dameron out of the sky.
Yeah, I don't understand. We're expected to believe that suddenly he's into... I mean, they set it up like he's toying with them.
Yeah.
But what's the point? When it's the only guys that are causing you a problem.
Yeah.
Why don't you just blow them out of space?
So anyway, he's sent there. He pretends to put Admiral Hux on hold while he's communicating with him as a distraction, so that the we should probably mention that Hux is on the new form of Star Destroyer.
Oh yes, the
Juggernaut.
the Imperial Juggernaut, the
First Order
Star
Juggernaut.
Destroyer, introduced and made redundant in the same film, because we've seen so many of them destroyed by the end.
Yes.
That it's impossible to believe that they're a new revolutionary threat.
Yeah. It's essentially a big star. It's a super Star Destroyer. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so Poe's sent in to buy some time, because the other new invention is introduced, the new bomber squadron.
What's wrong with Y-wings?
Yes.
That's what I'd like to know.
These are
these
slower.
These ships are slower.
Bigger.
And despite this being the first time we've seen them, one of them's malfunctioned.
Yeah. They had Y-wings 40 years ago and they were fine.
I don't see what was wrong with them. Because they were heavy enough bombers.
Yeah.
And it seems as long as the bombs were placed in the right place, there was no need for them.
They took down the Death Star with an X-wing, which is a fighter, not even a bomber.
So, I think one of the purposes of it was to shove in Rose's sister.
Yes.
I think they focused on it just long enough that it kind of felt like it was put there for no reason.
It was hey guys, this is important, notice this.
Yeah.
And there's a long pan, or zoom, or some form of shot onto her necklace, which, in the context of the film, makes sense, but at that time, it was literally just, hey, notice this is important, it'll come up later, just, and it seemed really forced, and did we even learn the character's name?
I don't think we did. If we did, there wasn't the focus placed on it, but then again, why would there be?
Yeah.
No, we didn't learn her name, it was just so we could get Rose.
Yeah, she was used as a plot device so we can learn about another character.
Yeah, exactly. And when the most interesting thing about a character is that we've seen their sister die.
Yeah. We're not off to a good start.
No, we're not off to a good start.
So the bombing run is successful. They blow up the Juggernaut. They
do. I mean, overall, I didn't have a problem with... I like the idea that fighters were kind of knocked out by a TIE fighter. I don't think we've seen anything like that, and I like that there was only one. But like I say, it just felt convoluted, and the whole thing was there just for the sake of Rey's nameless sister. Rose's nameless sister. I'm going to be doing that a lot today.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of slip-ups. This movie's not really very memorable. We've had to get a plot synopsis up just to remind ourselves of some of the points.
Yeah.
Apart from like a few little problems, like the bombing run that Rose's sister, the opening was strong. I had hopes in it.
I like the opening.
It's a good dogfight.
Yeah.
It was very refreshing because at this point in the movie, they make it seem like they're not just remaking Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
They do.
Next we have the interaction with Kylo and Leia. Now, I I liked the idea, because up until this point I was holding out hope they'd do something other than the obvious with Kylo and Rey.
Yeah.
I like the idea that Kylo wasn't the one to pull the trigger. I
Yes.
like the idea that they were showcasing some form of good in him. So I like the idea that it wasn't him that did it. The bridge gets blown up. Akbar dies, which is very sad.
Yeah. And very throwaway.
And it's kind of needless as well.
Yeah.
Why?
It's so we can introduce Laura Dern.
Exactly. So later on, we've got Laura Dern as
Purple hair lady.
Purple Hair Lady.
I don't know her name.
So we've got Laura Dern as Purple Hair Lady. So Akbar, again, it just felt like he was there to try and artificially add weight to it, which I didn't like.
Yeah.
So Leia gets blown off the bridge. And then we have that scene.
Yeah.
That scene, the one that instantaneously became a meme.
I thought this was it. I thought, because we had the devastating news about Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, and obviously what we say about her in this film...
It's
not attached to her. She was a fantastic...
She's not in this movie, basically. She's in a coma for 90% of it. But...
we can't overlook her contribution to the film as a whole.
No,
so we're not.
And I was... In the cinema, you see her blown into space, and you see her floating there with ice crystals forming on her, and you think, wow, that is an incredible scene.
It was fantastically powerful.
Yeah.
And
then her hand starts twitching, and I will admit, when her hands twitched, I got a little bit excited, because they was going, Leia with the Force, okay, this is really cool. And then she starts moving, and you see the background move behind the hand, and it's a really cool shot. And then they pan out, and it's just...
Instantly, what started playing in my head was, these are a few of my favourite things.
It's just so bad.
The most Poppins thing.
So she pulls herself back into the ship.
And let me stress, I'm not against the idea of Leia having some sort of innate connection to the Force. What I'm against is how dumb it looked.
Well, yeah.
We've discussed this. To fix how stupid it looks,
yeah.
Fix the camera on her hand.
Yeah.
Have space move around her.
And then go into the ship.
Don't have her fly around like Mary Poppins. Also, when they open the door... So, she force pulls her way back to the ship.
Yeah.
They open the door into a vacuum, and nothing happens.
No, they don't get sucked out or anything.
That's a minor scientific overlook.
But then there are explosions in space in Star Wars.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I mean, there are spaceships in Star Wars, aren't there?
And sound in space, and there's loads of...
and parsecs, that whole thing.
But this is really cool because it's... I don't know if it's still canon, but in the extended universe, which is now Star Wars Legends, it's stated that Yoda wanted to train Leia. He didn't want to train Luke. He didn't think Luke was strong enough with the Force. He always wanted to train Leia. He always thought Leia was going to be the Jedi that was going to save the galaxy, but that didn't come to fruition. He ended up training Luke. Leia didn't develop her Force powers. To see this, which is, I assume, meant to be a nod to that, it's always kind of been introduced.
As nice as it would be to assume that, I think you're giving Rian Johnson a lot of credit.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a nod to that, because he's so blatantly going against everything else that's been established later on.
Yeah.
To assume that something as little as that was added in, I think you're giving him a bit too much credit.
Yeah.
Although, nice touch that the frigate was named after... The frigate they were in was named after...
the Mon Calamari.
Yeah.
The guy from Rogue One. The pilot that was Blue Akbar.
Blue Akbar.
I can't remember his
Proper
name.
terms.
Rogue One was amazing, though.
Rogue One was brilliant, and we'll get into that later.
So they have this fight. Leia's then comatose for almost the entirety of the rest of the film.
Which is, to be generous, 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that she wasn't around to film, so they couldn't do much with her, but it kind of felt like a waste, because they've saved her character to the point where now she's just going to be written off screen. I'm not saying that I wanted Leia to die in the way she did, but it's more to see her go out like that, trying to save everyone, is more, in her character than just in the title crawl of the next film we're going to get a thing about Leia passing away or something like that.
Yes, but the thing about that is they'd already filmed that before she died.
Yeah.
So to change it like that, I just think would come across as a bit disrespectful, to cut her out of the film like that. I know her role was only minor, but to cut it out just because of that.
And I suppose it does take away from the we'll get to it later, but there's a very nice scene between Luke and Leia at the end of the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we've got Finn recovering from being stabbed with a lightsaber across the spine in hours.
Well, we've got to assume it's instantaneous, isn't it? The
Yeah.
pickup. So
So he gets off Starkiller. He gets back to. So we'll say a day.
let's say a few days.
Yeah.
Either way, he was stabbed
Yeah.
with a lightsaber.
And he's got that weird back to tank suit
Yes.
bubble thing.
Is that ever explained what that does?
I assume it's a back to tank, like what Luke was in at the beginning of.
Yeah.
But like a portable one. But he looks like the Michelin Man.
He does look like the Michelin Man, and then there's a funny scene where he pops.
Yeah.
And,
that's going to come up a lot. Just ridiculous childish humour where it doesn't need to be, something that the original Star Wars trilogy didn't have.
No.
It had comedic moments, but it wasn't. This film is almost slapstick.
Yeah. So, as we said earlier, we mentioned Rogue One. You think about Rogue One.
Yeah.
That had funny moments, but it had a character to deliver them.
Yeah.
It made sense because it was K2SO, this robot who was very literal, didn't understand what was going on around him, and when he delivered these comedic moments, they felt genuine.
Yeah. Because they wrote
when
the character.
later on in the film, Hux turns to make a joke to Kylo after he's lost his fucking mind. Like, you just think, would you do that? Would you approach probably the most dangerous man in the First Order and make a joke to him after he thinks he's just killed the man who's tormented him for however long?
Yeah.
Would you do that?
It's a weird film. And then we come on to Luke. Now.
So, this is the beginning of Rian Johnson stamping on the legacy of J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
And erecting his own little signpost on top of it.
My biggest problem with this, and I don't know if I'm picking too. Well, it's not my biggest problem. One of my bigger problems with this, I noticed in the cinema and I couldn't unsee the scene which Force Awakens ends on, with the beautiful iconic scene of Rey holding out the lightsaber, tears in her eyes to Luke, and Luke looking at like, this is what's happened. It's different in this movie. They didn't reuse the same cut.
No.
The scene is of Rey walking up to Luke and handing out the lightsaber is different, and I don't understand why they reshot that, because they had the footage. And then you get the moment, and Luke takes the lightsaber, he holds it in his metal hand,
and the music
swells, and he just chucks it over his shoulder into the ocean. This lightsaber is the most important thing in the Star Wars franchise.
That is so symbolic. If Luke were Rian Johnson and the lightsaber was the Force Awakens.
Anakin's lightsaber is the most important thing in Star Wars franchise. It's been in every film.
Yeah.
It's an iconic. It's the weapon that Anakin trained to use. This Force trained with. It's the weapon that Luke trained with. It's been the weapon that Rey has trained with. It's the only thing in the world that Kylo wants. He wants his grandfather's lightsaber. It's the centerpiece of this entire story. And Luke just over his shoulder and walks off. And it's the first instance in this film of something that happens way too much, and that is killing dramatic tension for comedy.
Yeah,
for
the sake of a cheap chuckle.
Yeah, they build.
Which is why I think I enjoyed it so much on my first viewing, because I thought it was easy watching.
Yeah,
That's not what Star Wars should be.
This film is fine if you don't care about Star Wars.
Exactly.
If you're not but then but the fans of the franchise should come first, because without we sat through the prequels. We deserve fucking good films. And it's just, but I quite like the way Luke was handled in this film. Very ambiguous, very.
Overall, yeah. People really seem to hate how he was handled, and I don't. I think his arc was quite nice. There are some niggles.
Yeah.
Which obviously we'll talk about.
Yes.
So let's talk about the world that Luke's living on.
I can't remember what it's called now. It's an island in the middle of the ocean with some inhabitants. Acto. It's a site of the first Jedi Temple.
Yes. A Jedi Temple, certainly.
Yeah, Luke's gone there into hiding to hide. Well, just get away from the Force, because he doesn't believe in himself anymore, and we'll get into why that is later in the film when it's explained. He's living as a hermit. He looks rough.
So that's all fine. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with Luke cutting himself off, living in seclusion. Why are there fish people living with him? They do not serve a purpose apart from comedic relief, and that's what I'm talking about. It's completely needless.
Yeah.
So they're there specifically so that
to embarrass Rey.
Rey shoots a hole in a house,
Yeah.
and they go, "Arr!" And then Rey knocks a rock off a cliff, and it lands on their whatever it is they're carrying. I think it's rocks or
Wheelbarrow,
something, and they
yeah.
go, "Meh."
But Matt, they're practical, so they're okay.
Another thing, I know we're jumping ahead slightly. Why, when Luke throws the lightsaber over his head, do we then have to watch him do his equivalent of grocery shopping for 10 minutes? I don't understand what that served.
Padding the runtime?
To watch, just Rey so patiently watch him as he
Milks a creature.
milks a creature. I was uncomfortable. That I think is when I started going, what is this? What's going on?
If you don't
I'm watching Luke Skywalker get some green fucking milk.
It's a big, fat, round whale thing with a long neck that sat on a rock and he just milks it. Luke literally just milks.
We're watching Luke Skywalker milk some sort of
Star Wars. It's
Star Wars Disney thingy, trademark, copyright, trademark.
I'm never going to have a go at a filmmaker for world building, but this was not world building.
That's not world building because they don't have an impact.
It's meant to be a reference of, hey, look, this is where blue milk comes from. So why is it? But they don't. These creatures live on this planet, not Tatooine. So why? Where do they ship it from?
I just think it was all completely needless. We're getting an insight into what Luke's life is like now, but we've seen him with a beard on his own on an island.
Yeah.
Just make it so he lives in seclusion, and
Yes.
we'll get that impression.
Yeah.
We don't need to see. You don't need to ram it into our heads this heavily that he's living a shadow of his former life, because we can get that impression.
So Luke's doing his thing. Rey is pointless at this point. She's done nothing.
Oh, I can't believe, by the way, that we forgot to mention Porgs.
Yes. So they filmed the scenes with Luke on an island off the coast of Ireland called Skellig Michael Island, which is famous for being a puffin reserve, and they had a lot of problems shooting because there were puffins everywhere. They were annoying. They were interrupting the shooting, and as you expect. So, to honour them, or pay homage to these creatures, they invented something called a porg, which you've seen on the internet. It's a meme, it's a cuddly toy, it's probably a Pez dispenser.
It's the most cynical marketing ploy that has ever been employed in a...
It's a bear penguin.
It's a fat little bear penguin with giant eyes, and we see way too much of them.
Yes. There's a couple of times they're kind of funny. Like the bit where there's a scene where Chewie is eating one. And he's like roasting it on a spit. Oh yeah, Chewie's in this movie. You wouldn't know for it.
Yeah, he appears, again, entirely for comedic relief, I think. Oh, and he flies the Falcon at one point.
Yeah, but he's cooking a porg carcass, and there's just a circle of porgs around him with shocked looks on their faces. If that was the only porg joke, I would have liked it, but they just keep appearing, and they nest inside the Falcon, so they come with them when they leave this island, so they're going to be in the next film, although I doubt J.J. Abrams will use them. Although they're bankable, and Disney are all about that dollar. So they probably will be, and we'll probably find a Force-sensitive porg in the next film, won't we? And
yeah, just another cheap cutaway.
So, we've talked about the island, and how we'll obviously come back to it, because there's some really quite heavy and meaningful scenes between Luke and Rey later on this island, but the first time we're introduced to it, it's just a mess of CGI. It felt like a prequel. It doesn't feel like a prequel. It felt like the special edition version of Mos Eisley, where you're running through and there's elephants and this big creature just walks across screen and you get the weird CGI Jabba the Hutt and all that. That's what it felt like. But then we get probably the best element of this film happening on the island, which is Rey and Kylo just suddenly can see each other, and it's not explained why yet. But Rey's in a little hut meditating, and all of a sudden she looks up and Kylo's there, and they can see each other. And it's these scenes, I think, alone, well, maybe not alone, but that push the point of Adam Driver fucking nails this movie.
He does. Like you say, these scenes in particular, and a couple of later on scenes.
Yeah.
Really does kind of nail Kylo well, up to a point. There's a certain point in the film where I think everything that he's worked to build is destroyed.
Yes. He is shirtless in one of these scenes.
He is shirtless, and obviously we're going to get to that because there's no need for him to be.
They make a joke about it. It destroys the dramatic tension, but he does nail it.
He does. Hand in hand with that, I was underwhelmed by Daisy Ridley's performance, actually. Not particularly bad in terms of acting, but her voice kind of... something about her performance that wasn't there in The Force Awakens. It's cartoony, almost, in its kind of over-the-topness. It's a difficult one to explain. But it sounds like she transports back in time about 50 years. She's in like some sort of very over-the-top 60s musical, and she's talking in very sort of like an over-the-top accent sometimes. Maybe that's quite a niche one, but I've spoken to other people and I'm not the only one that's picked up on that.
The thing is Star Wars has never had good acting. You watch those original trilogy movies and it's really like hammy, cheesy, silly. So Daisy Ridley's fine in that sense, but when you put her in a scene with Adam Driver... Exactly.
You put her in a scene with someone who's acting his pants off.
To an Oscar caliber level, I think.
To the point that it wouldn't have been out of place if he were nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I'm not saying victory, because films like Star Wars just aren't...
No.
They're not Oscar material, are they?
But he
not with fan bases.
Was incredible in this movie, and I think that goes to the detriment of Daisy Ridley.
Exactly.
That's why
it highlights the cartoonishness of her performance.
And let's not forget, she's like, I think Star Wars Force Awakens was her first ever film role. She's a new actress. The only thing I'd ever seen her in before is she played a corpse on a British TV show called Silent Witness.
I've also seen she had a line of dialogue. I don't know if this was before or after Star Wars, actually. On a show, I've forgotten his name. The guy who plays Douglas Renham in the IT Crowd.
Yes.
Matt Berry.
Yes.
Matt Berry. So Matt Berry's Netflix show, Toast of London, she had one line in that. So she was a stagehand. So this is her first major performance.
And it's pretty good for that.
Yeah. Force Awakens was her first.
Yeah. And she was really good in Force Awakens, but again, that might have been more the colour, like she was in the same standard as the people around her, as opposed to Adam Driver's. Just his step up in this movie is... It's
incredible. I actually believed in Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
As a villain, as a kind of... up until a certain scene, this is the most... Because there was speculation as to what would happen regarding the moral compasses of Rey and Kylo.
Yes.
Going into the film. And Kylo's performance in particular made it quite... I was genuinely unsure of how they'd address that.
Yes.
As it turns out, they didn't.
No.
But, Adam Driver's performance was absolutely incredible, the step up.
And then we have a brilliant scene, which was an amazing callback to the original films. It's the way that these sort of callbacks and references should be. And that is a scene between Luke and R2, who we know have a special bond. I know it's weird that a guy has a bond with a robot, but the robots in Star Wars are different. They're alive. They have personalities.
So R2-D2, like such a personality for something that beeps.
Yeah.
You know.
And Luke has refused to train Rey because he wants the Jedi Force to just end. He doesn't believe in it anymore. So he sits down with R2. They have a catch up. They reminisce, or as much as they can, because R2 can't really speak. And R2 plays the video message from New Hope with Leia. And it was perfect. I loved that scene. It's
a joke I stand by.
Yeah.
Luke comments that it's a low blow. And I do like that because these guys... I keep referring to these guys as having chemistry. One of them's a robot that beeps.
Yeah, but they do.
Crazy.
R2-D2 he's iconic, and he's not... I think the reason we love him is because in the original trilogy he was the comic relief. But he's not in this movie, really. Love how we're calling him him. But it's just the weight of that message and Luke's just realization that, you know,
The delivery of that line, he
Yeah.
makes it dramatic. It's like that.
Mark Hamill, like, you say what you want about his character arc, he nails this film. He's old Luke. I mean, he's, you know, it's Mark Hamill. He's kind of the only role he's ever really played as Luke. He was the Joker, but that was voice acting. Like, he's Luke Skywalker. He's been Luke Skywalker since 1977. It's what he'll be remembered for. It's his only major well, again, the Joker is amazing, but he will be remembered for this character. So he was given one more chance to play this character, and he gave it 110%. It's perfect. It's in the same way that we all expected Harrison Ford to phone it in for The Force Awakens, and then when he didn't, we were all blown away.
Yeah.
It's that level. Like, because Harrison Ford hates Star Wars. He doesn't care about it.
He tried in the original trilogy 3 separate times to have Han Solo killed.
Yeah.
He not that he hated the character. He just think there was nowhere to go.
Yeah.
With it. Which is funny now that we're in 2018 and we're 2 months away from getting a whole film about the character.
Yeah, so it was just really nice to see Mark Hamill back as Luke Skywalker. Although he wasn't handled the best, I do stand by. I like Luke's character progression in this movie.
Right, exactly.
Dark Side Pit.
So Luke begins training Rey,
Which is quite cool.
We have to remember this film takes place inside a real-time...
Of a couple of days.
Let's be generous and call it 2 days. A lot of stuff that happens wouldn't happen organically given the amount of time that's passing. So Luke starts training Rey, which is great. It's cool to see Luke in that kind of the master student.
The Yoda role.
Exactly. It's nice to see him in that role. And then Luke mentions a pit.
A dark place.
A pit with some seaweed in that is strong with the dark side. Now, glossing over why they built a Jedi temple so close to such a pit, unless the pit manifested itself there afterwards.
Yeah, it's the seaweed pit. It's ridiculous.
So Rey travels straight down into the pit, and that makes Luke cross.
Yes.
And unhappy.
We find
out about the first of 3 versions of a story.
Yes.
About Kylo Ren running off.
With the Knights of Ren.
Kylo Ren, as it turns out, as is revealed, was a student at a Jedi Academy that Luke ran.
Yes.
And what we know after the first reveal about it is that Kylo Ren destroyed the entire academy and ran off with 6 other students who are meant to have become the Knights of Ren.
Not
you don't
explained.
see them.
No.
They're not mentioned.
Don't
know why. Maybe they'll come into the later film.
The flashback in Force Awakens where you see the 7 of them in a circle in the rain is more of the you see of them than in this entire movie.
We only see they're only mentioned.
Yeah.
In
so he destroys the temple.
So Luke mentions that to Rey. Rey goes down into the seaweed pit.
She just kind of falls into it.
She's pulled in. It's just a cave.
Yes.
I don't know why it's particularly strong with the dark side. So she comes up to this, like a mirror.
Yeah.
It's fair to call it like an ice mirror.
It's a funhouse.
Luke previously mentioned that it would give anyone who sort of went and spoke to it what they were looking for, and obviously Rey asked it about her parents.
It's the mirror from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Essentially.
The one where you see whatever you want to see.
Yeah. So she asks this mirror about who knows about her parents.
Yeah.
Give me the truth. Show me someone who knows the truth about my parents.
60 million rays appear.
And then, it's... I don't know what they were going for. It's very stylized.
They were clearly trying to do Luke's Force vision from Empire, with him going into the cave and fighting Vader, and then he kills Vader and it's Luke, which is easy to understand. You get where that's coming from.
It's stylized, but not...
Yeah.
Not like this. It didn't make sense, and it went on for a bit too long.
So essentially, she stands in front of this mirror, and in front of her is her, but not facing her. It's facing the same way that she is, and then there's another one, 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 and it just goes on forever. So
she does things like waving, clicks her fingers, and they all do it. Sort of the ones behind her click before she does. The ones in front of her click after she does.
So she tries to find. She does the click to try and find the front, because she creates a noise so she can know where it ends, and then somehow that means she jumps to the end, and stood in front of her is her, but facing this time because it's different.
So this comes into play later on. She asked it, show me someone who knows about my parents. It showed her.
Yes.
That's handled somewhat well.
That
later on.
was enough to make me go, where are they going with this? It was too drawn out. It was a nice concept, poor execution.
Yeah.
That's it. That's pretty much this film.
Yeah.
It's it's
full of
good ideas that are bad. I'm not going to blame Rian Johnson for this. There are a lot in this film that I will blame him for because he wrote it, but the overarching plot is not the major problem with this film. It's the little things, and I feel like they're more Disney getting their paws on it and going like, oh, we can merchandise this, or we can make this for kids.
Yeah, right. We see a lot of animal life in specifically
Yes.
that are given names for no reason, and we see too much of them.
This isn't new. I mean,
no, it's not new.
George Lucas is famous for this.
Exactly, it's not new, but when it's shoved in our faces, that like porgs were being marketed as merchandise, while I knew what a porg was before I'd seen the film.
Yeah.
But they were so heavily shoved in my face and down my throat.
The biggest difference is George Lucas made toys of every character in Star Wars. Background characters that get one line, everything like that. He made toys of them. These films make toys and then make characters for them.
Yeah.
It's just like there's a lot of...
It's built around merchandise.
Yes.
Which is, I suppose, inherent of Disney.
Yes.
Of being controlled by a company as giant as Disney, so revenue reliant as Disney.
It's an interesting film, this.
So we move on. Rey
trains for a bit.
Well, after the mirror scene, there's another Force Bridge interaction between Rey and Kylo. And Kylo gives his side of events.
Yes.
His side of events being that actually he just woke up and Luke Skywalker was standing over him with a lightsaber, so he essentially tried to kill him.
I loved this.
I thought it was cool. I liked this idea. Is this the scene where he's topless, or is that later on?
I think the scene where he's topless is the second Force Vision. So that might be this is the second time.
Yeah.
And he's shirtless, and they make a joke about it,
So,
and it's silly. And...
Easy fix for that. Don't have him be shirtless, because Rian Johnson actually came out in defence of this. He said this is to show that the characters could see each other.
Yeah.
My immediate thought was just have Rey comment on the scar.
Yeah.
How it's healing up. As something she could only know if she could see him.
Because that massive face wound.
Because the point is, this is like these two characters are beginning to relate to each other, and if you make a joke, like you say, it cuts the tension out. I'm not against humour in Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. No. I'm against it when it's a detriment to the story.
Yeah. Should we mention the scar? You know the massive facial wound that Kylo Ren picks up at the end of Force Awakens. Within 2 days, it's a tiny little scratch that goes down under his eye, which they've stitched together with metal.
They've proceeded on the assumption that a lot of time has passed between the two films,
but it hasn't.
Finn's Finn wakes up for no reason,
and he's fine. No negative consequences for having his spine cut in half, basically. Yeah. But we'll get on to Finn. I've got a lot to say about Finn.
Yeah.
So they have this conversation. Genuinely was my favourite scene in the movie until they ruined it, that Luke tried to kill Kylo. I loved that.
Yeah. So then Luke comes into a hut. At this point he's reconnected with the Force.
Yeah.
So he can see that Rey and Kylo can see each other.
Yes.
Because they're actually visible in the same... we're led to believe he can see Kylo there.
Lovely Adam Driver's face when he sees Luke is brilliant acting.
It takes a lot of effort to look like you...
To show that many emotions without speaking.
Well, exactly, yeah. Truly, truly wonderful.
Yeah, it was. Acting. And Mark Hamill was, his look of what the hell is...
Yeah. So they have a fight. Luke uses a lightsaber for a bit.
Yes.
Rey does the same. No, actually, Luke uses a staff, doesn't he?
Yes.
And then Rey gets hold of a lightsaber, pushes Luke down, and this is where we get the third perspective on the Jedi Academy story. So, as it turns out, Luke went to kill Kylo because
he can see the future.
He sensed Supreme Leader Snoke taking hold of him.
Yes. But it was a momentary lapse of judgment.
It was a lapse of judgment, exactly. Now, you don't like this.
No.
Why is that?
Because I feel Luke is one of the most fascinating characters in Star Wars to me, because he walks the line between light and dark side. He's always one moment away from turning. the entire original trilogy was kind of like his path to the dark side and then his final realization of where he was going and changing. But you can't then just reset him back to the beginning after that moment. He needs to... I mean, he might have slowly come his way back, but judging by what happened, it feels like he was just kind of trying to hide himself from who he really is by setting up this temple that failed, and because of his lack of faith in the Force, that's why it's failed. And Luke is not the be-all and end-all of Star Wars. He's the main character of the original trilogy, yes, but he's not this shining white knight of hope. He's not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No.
He's Anakin in pretty much every way.
Hmm.
So the thought of him just seeing his failure and just snapping and realising, oh God, I've done it again. Oh God, there's another monster on the way, and just doing anything he can to try and stop that really appeals to me. And I feel that's a lot more of a character development and a lot more of a human flaw in a character than going, I'm going to kill him. Oh wait, no, that's a bad idea. I feel like if they'd gone through with it, because he didn't kill him, that could have been guilt. That could have weighed down on Luke. That could have been this thing. That could have been the reason he went to isolation. That could have been the reason he turned himself from the Force, because it had corrupted him to the point where he was about to kill his nephew.
Yeah.
But they just take all that weight away by going, oh no, he didn't do it, he's a good guy. It's just...
See, I think that everything you've just said was shown effectively enough without having him killed. I like the idea that Luke became so obsessed with playing up to the legend that had become Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he got so lost in that he thought he could handle anything. I think that's a human flaw in itself.
Yes.
And the realisation of, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm trying to take this into my own hands because I think I'm untouchable, and I think I can get away with that.
It does work either way. This is entirely personal opinion. This is just what I would have liked with the character. It's probably worth pointing out now, Disney did something that's kind of unheard of in modern cinema. Kind of a good thing and kind of a bad thing, and that is they have a scene with young Luke in these flashbacks, and they don't de-age him. They just dye his hair brown and give him a clean shaven beard. It's really nice because I was half expecting for like the weird and uncanny valley de-aging like we got with Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War, and very weird Carrie Fisher at the end of Rogue One. Yeah,
obviously the rebuilding of Tarkin on Guy Henry.
And it was nice to see them not do that and just use old like makeup and hair dye.
Exactly, because it worked well enough.
Yeah.
Didn't it?
Well, we instantly knew what it meant. He didn't look any younger, but we instantly, because of the context and the slight changes they'd made, we instantly went, oh, this is younger Luke. Yeah, so it's really nice to see the old-fashioned methods working so well. Where are we up to now? I'm starting to... Oh, so do we want to talk about the Jedi Temple scene now, or do we want to get into the casino first?
So, first of all, we need to mention that Rey, after this confrontation, goes off to confront Kylo, to try and change him back, because apparently she gets the impression that he can be changed back through their Force Bridge connections, which, to be fair, it's acted well enough.
It makes sense.
We can.
Adam Driver makes you believe that he's having doubts about himself.
Yeah.
So I think we should talk about the Jedi Temple thing after the casino, because the casino I need to talk about now.
So, while all this has been happening, Poe Dameron...
Basically, the frigate ship is caught in a chase. They can't escape the Imperial...
Yeah, it's the really dumb setup that
we mentioned earlier.
We mentioned at the start, yeah.
They can't outrun the frigate. They're running out of fuel. Hux is just toying with them. Their shields are going down. They've got, I think, 8 hours.
Holdo. Vice Admiral Holdo.
That's Laura Dern.
I've looked the name up.
So they're running out. They've got 8 hours of fuel.
So they've got 8 hours of fuel, which again... it was a bit of a dumb decision because they've given the whole thing a sense of timescale, which means that when you break it down, what happened way too quickly.
Yeah, it would have been fine if there was no obligatory time limit.
Yeah.
If they just said they're just outrunning them.
Yeah.
You could have set that over days. They could have been outrunning them for days. It didn't need this.
So Holdo's plan, in obviously Leia's absence, because Leia is comatose, we're led to believe.
Yes.
Is to carry on flying in a straight line while secretly preparing the escape pods for evacuation.
Yes.
Poe Dameron, they're trying to paint him as some sort of hot head that gets the job done.
Yeah.
In this one in particular.
Yeah. Arrogant. And
so...
basically a Han Solo.
Brash to the point of... Yeah, that's a good comparison. So he essentially stages a mutiny.
Yes.
Is the word that they don't... I don't think they use the word.
No, but he does. And he sends
He sends
Ray. No, he sends Finn
Finn.
and Rose
Well, he sends Finn off on a secret mission.
with Rose and BB-8.
Yeah. Well, essentially, before that happens, we need to talk about how they meet Finn and Rose.
Yes.
So Finn is essentially trying to run away.
Yes, like he did. Like he did for the first.
Like he ran from the First Order.
Yeah, and then tried to run from the Resistance again until he had a character arc and realised that he needs to stay and fight.
Yeah.
Which is then forgotten about, because at the beginning of this film he's instantly back to cowardly Finn, who, not the same Finn that literally 2 days ago stood up to Kylo Ren with a lightsaber.
Yeah. So he tries to run away, he meets Rose.
So technician?
Yeah, Rose is a technician on one of the frigates.
Yes.
She's got an insanely quickly established character arc.
Yes.
She's seen clutching the other half of this necklace that her sister was wearing when she died.
Yes. So we instantly know.
So we instantly know like that's where she comes from. That's pretty much the extent of her...
For now.
For now. So she sees Finn and she's... Because Finn has become something of a resistance icon because he ran away from the First Order.
And we get the same joke we got in Force Awakens with Finn going, oh yes, I'm a Resistance, or I'm a big deal in the Resistance, or get me. And then he tries to flee in an escape pod.
Yes, exactly. And then she spots he's trying to free and goes to imprison him.
Yes.
So then they bond over basically being tech nerds between them, talking about how to disable the shields for one of the Imperial ships.
Yes.
So they consult Poe, and Poe sends them off to a casino planet.
It's Monte Carlo the planet.
It's, essentially Monte Carlo the planet. So they're sent there.
Another cutaway gag happens here, which I quite like, and that is a alien at the casino they're at.
Yeah.
Mistakes BB-8 for a slot machine and starts putting coins in him.
Yeah.
I did like that. That was a funny gag. It wasn't the most ingenious thing in the world, but it's one of those things that's like, that feels like it's a real part of the world. A drunk guy trying to put coins in BB-8. That's not forced comedy. That's something that you would really imagine happens. And
Canto Blight. So
Canto Blight.
At the name, I can't remember any of the planets.
No.
Which is telling, because I can remember most of the other ones from all of the other Star Wars films.
Yeah, there's probably not a planet I can't remember.
I've had to look every single one up.
Even the prequels, I think I could probably name every planet.
Yeah, I think I could as well.
There's one planet I remember this, and that's definitely not Hoth.
No. So they go to Canto Blight.
Yes.
To search for a man with a red
brooch.
Red brooch. I forget the exact name.
Who isn't Lando, but should be Lando.
So apparently this Billy D. Williams in some capacity was meant to appear in this film.
Yes.
He was meant to take the role of DJ, which, as I said, was filled by Benicio del Toro, who does a good job because it's Benicio del Toro.
Yes.
One of the best actors in the world.
Yeah.
But what I can't understand is why Rian Johnson didn't think to make the man with the brooch Lando.
Yeah,
because it always seemed weird to me that this guy is built up to be really significant.
And then it's just a bloke in a white suit who doesn't get a line.
And it's just a bloke in a white suit with a moustache who makes some sort of money joke. Have that be Lando, to not include... Now, Rian Johnson came out and said the reason Lando is not DJ is because Lando, as he is now, having fought alongside the Rebel Alliance, wouldn't have a moral compass like that anymore.
No,
he wouldn't flip-flop like that just for money. He understands the cause.
And that's true.
That Han Solo gave his life for. Now, that's fair enough. But if Billy D. Williams was on board with playing Lando in some capacity, and he was, because it's Billy D. Williams, he's appeared in just about every extended universe.
He's been in Rebels, he's been in everything. They could have easily still had the DJ character, because they could have had them go and ask Lando to help, and he could have been working another job. He could have been, trying
or even that, just keep him in the same capacity. Just have it be him.
Yeah.
That would have been really nice.
We don't get that, obviously.
No.
So they meet up. Well, they get thrown in jail because they parked their shuttle illegally.
Yeah, which is dumb, dumb, stupid, dumb. It's set up for the sake of setup. It's throwaway.
And even though they're in a massive prison with loads of cells.
Yeah, they're bunged in the only other one with
a prisoner in it.
Yeah, the world's most shady character.
Yeah, he literally appears from the shadows.
It's quite literally actually. So
and he offers to help them, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Now, I thought it was too obvious to have a guy like that betray them.
Yes.
As we find out, it
isn't.
No.
Oh, and there's that ridiculous line. They steal a ship after a chase that we have to talk about. they steal a ship, and they're on this ship flying back to the to the Imperial frigates, and they're having a go at DJ because he sells things.
Well, he's a war merchant.
He's a war
profiteer.
merchant. And they have a go at him for because he sells TIE fighters, he sells things like that, and then he goes, oh, but what about this? And he shows that he sells the Resistance X-wings, and it's meant to be like, oh yeah. It's like, no, that is a clear difference there. You can't. It's not a grey area of who's good and who's bad, which Rogue One was. This is not, because it's. I don't want to. It's. I know it is technically that the rebels or the Resistance are kind of terrorists, but it's blatantly clear that the First Order are bad guys.
Yeah.
It's like calling the French resistance of Nazi occupation the bad guys. They weren't. They were. And it's just, I felt like it's a line that didn't need to be there. That felt more like it needed to be in Rogue One than this movie.
Yeah.
It felt so out of place.
So,
The chase.
another thing is, while they're on this planet, even though the entire Rebel Alliance is in jeopardy,
Yes.
and they are there specifically to save them,
And they're on a time limit.
And they're on a time limit. Rose decides to stop and free some horses
Yes.
for lack of.
Because she grew up on a planet where they were bred and they were mistreated.
So the Canto Blight Casino is frequented mainly by arms dealers.
Yes.
Like DJ.
And Lando, if he was there.
And Lando, if he was there. So Rose decides, and there are also some children.
Which are very significant.
Yeah, they're used to slap us in the face
Yes.
later on. Rose decides to take time out of their schedule to go and free some horses.
With cat faces, and they're very cute.
This Canto Blight could have been dropped. I think.
Entirely.
I think it's entirely.
Everything outside of the casino bit could have been dropped.
Yeah. Exactly.
They go
Just
there,
have
they
them
get
go-
DJ, they leave.
Have them go and try and break someone out of prison.
Yeah.
But this guy with the red brooch, have him be dead in a cell with DJ.
Yeah.
You don't. It was extraneous. There was no reason for it to be there.
It was an anti-consumerism, weird message in a Disney movie.
It was very clunky.
Yeah.
Very obviously out of place. So DJ ends up stealing a ship, even after they reject his help. DJ and BB-8 ends up using the coins that the guy put in him, which again I liked. I like that kind of continuity. DJ steals a ship. They free the horses. Hip hip hooray.
Yeah. There's a weird chase scene where they're riding these horses. It's so prequels.
Yeah.
It's just not fun.
No. So they steal the ship. Meanwhile, Luke goes to destroy this Jedi temple.
Yes, the original one, with the original Jedi texts written by the original Grandmaster of the Jedi Order.
Yeah, and he is stopped, just as he's about to do this, by the Force Ghost of Yoda.
It's brilliant.
Really, really like this scene.
Yeah.
Really like it.
Wait, let me just check something quickly.
So, a lot of people say they would have preferred Obi-Wan.
I'm one of those people.
Obi-Wan being...
Ewan McGregor would have done it.
Obi-Wan being sort of Luke's main mentor, the guy who's always there for him. I'm perfectly happy with it being Frank Oz, especially considering they used the original puppet.
Yes.
From the original films.
It looked a little
and obviously
funky.
it being Frank Oz.
Like when he first appeared, it looked a bit off. Like when he kind of, because he materializes, and you can tell that first shot of him is CGI, and that's a little bit clunky. But then like it cuts, and it is the original puppet, and from then on, it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So although it might have been nice, especially with Ewan McGregor, but again,
we'll just have them both there.
It's unconfirmed as to who's playing Obi-Wan currently, isn't it?
They've got an Obi-Wan movie coming in, which I'm guessing there has to be set between 3 and 4.
Yeah, Obi-Wan to Obi-Ben.
Yeah, and it has to be Ewan McGregor, because Ewan McGregor is the shining light of those prequels.
Yeah.
He was Obi-Wan, he copied Sir Alec Guinness, his mannerisms, his voice, he nailed that performance, and to not have him back would be ridiculous, and I feel like...
He's the right sort of age as well to do it, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. And there's some leaked concept art photos, they leaked about a year ago, of Ewan McGregor as old Alec Guinness, and the likeness is uncanny.
It's spooky, actually.
It's brilliant, and especially after he appeared in Rebels.
Yeah.
That wasn't Ewan McGregor who did the voice in Rebels, but the old Obi-Wan that appeared in Rebels has just got everyone excited about the potential of an old Obi-Wan movie.
Yeah.
the only legend / Star Wars story that I'd want, like Rogue One was really good, but if someone told me before we got it, hey, we're going to do the story of how they saw the Death Star plans, I'd be like, do you really need to? Like, that's not. But it was good, and then Han Solo, yeesh.
Yeah.
We don't need that. And then there was a rumor of a young Boba Fett movie, and it's like, but this, the second I heard Obi-Wan between 3 and 4, Ewan McGregor's been begging for this movie for like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
It needs to happen. But he should have appeared in this movie, especially if they're doing that. Even if they had Yoda and Obi-Wan, because their dynamic in the original trilogy, when they used to bicker about what was best for Luke, was really cool. Because of course, back then, Yoda was Obi-Wan's master. That got retconned because it was Yoda trained Dooku, who trained Qui-Gon, who trained Obi-Wan. So it got retconned, but originally it was that Yoda was Obi-Wan's master, Obi-Wan was Luke's master, and they had a really fun dynamic between the three of them. So to have him come back, it would have completed that scene.
Yeah.
Although it was already an incredible scene.
I was going to say, I'm perfectly happy with what they did. I like that Yoda destroyed the. At first, I was a bit like, oh, so Force ghosts can use Force lightning, but on consideration, they are
the Force
manifestations of the Force. So why can't the Force manipulate itself like that if it's if it can manifest itself as something sentient?
There it is. The final shot is perfect.
Of them staring into the fire, sort of master and student. And I know, not technically master, but it is a brilliant shot.
So he blows up the temple, and there's this, as we're looking, we literally just got the picture up because I love it so much.
Yeah.
It pans away of the silhouette of Yoda and Luke looking into the fire of the first Jedi temple, and there's a really, really, really clever throwaway line in this scene. After Yoda blows up the temple, he says something like, Rey has already got everything she needs from this place. And you think, oh, she's become a Jedi, but no, in a later scene you see her on the Falcon, and tucked away on the Falcon, she's stolen all of the text, and Yoda obviously knew that, and he was just being himself, smart and cunning and kind of jokey, and it was the best, well, not the best scene in the movie, because we're talking about that in a minute, but this was an incredible moment. It was lovely to see Yoda back, and I'm really, really, really happy they did it. So now we've been positive for a little bit. It's time to go back to...
So, the secret mutiny plan thing that Poe and Finn have...
they get onto Snoke's ship.
Chaired. They use DJ to get onto Snoke's ship.
Dress up as Imperials again, because that seems to happen a lot in Star Wars.
Yeah, this is the 30 seconds we see of the black BB-8 that was thrown all over the marketing campaign in another episode, example of blatant merchandising. He's there for... I mean, we do get a focus shot of him, but it is only the one. Yeah. Which, again, makes you feel like this was...
Cash grab.
An exercise in cash grabbing, exactly. So they're captured... in the end, sold out by a shifty character, who'd have guessed, to Captain Phasma, who is back...
For seconds.
For some reason.
She's back.
They really wasted Gwendoline Christie.
Yeah.
They really did, because she's a good actress, and you hire a character like that, and you make a character like Phasma, and then you have her brought back in this film.
She has less to do in this film than The Force Awakens. She has a fight with Finn,
that lasts all of about 20 seconds.
And then they both fall down a pit, and then Finn comes back up on an elevator, and she falls to her death because she misses the elevator.
Yeah, so you were all... The line, you were always scum, rebel scum.
Yeah.
It was a waste. I thought Phasma was an interesting character.
Yes.
And the unfortunate thing that we'll get into...
Yes.
...is that Finn's arc is done now.
Yes.
He's got nothing to do. He's gone from this cowardly Imperial soldier. He's fled. He's learned what it means to have a cause that means something to him. He's fought for that cause. He's dead weight now, essentially. He's just a character that's there. While all the other characters have stories developing around them, Finn will just be there now.
Phasma will be back for the next film, though.
This is... They're going to have to do some very, very shifty explaining to explain how she survived.
How did she get out of the last system? They don't really explain that. They just kind of, she's back, so she'll be back again, because it's probably a meme by now.
So...
concurrently to this,
I don't know if we mentioned this earlier. We probably should have. So after the confrontation between Rey and Luke, Rey, I think we mentioned this. She seems to think that Kylo can be converted. So she goes to him. She lands on the ship, and she's instantly captured by Kylo,
straight away.
who takes her to Snoke.
More positives.
Yeah, the throne room scene was good.
Yeah.
It was excellent, actually.
It was a brilliant homage to the throne room in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I liked the dynamic. This, again, examples of comedy moments that worked, when Snoke sort of takes the lightsaber using the Force away from Rey, and then just kind of bops her on the head with it. Yeah. It's such a display of power.
It's like, sit down, you child.
Exactly. It's don't even try it.
Yeah.
Snoke CGI was brilliant.
Oh, Snoke looked amazing.
Looked really good. Andy Serkis's impression, his voice acting, incredible.
As always.
Why was Snoke dressed like an upper-class granddad? Why did he have a dressing gown and slippers?
The whole room was very garish, wasn't it?
It was.
It was a bit like...
It was a bit too bright, I think. Not necessarily garish, but bright. For somewhere so dark and ominous, it was like bright red. Snoke was in gold, which looked really daft.
He looked like... what was the movie... Beyond the Shabalala, or whatever, the film with Michael Douglas. I can't remember who's playing. The famous man with all of his fancy sequins and his... It was ridiculous, but it was also very... You knew what Snoke was like when you saw it. You knew that he thought he was the be-all and end-all. You knew he thought that he was king. It was an arrogant... What have we got? No, it's not that one.
It's not that one, no. I don't know what that is.
We're trying to look up this film. It's Beyond the Candelabra or something. I think that's what it's called.
I know which one you mean. Beyond the...
I'm pretty sure it's Beyond the Candelabra.
Candelabra. Beyond the Candelabra. Behind the Candelabra.
Behind the Candelabra.
Behind the Candelabra. Yeah, that's Snoke.
Yeah,
that's Snoke, isn't it?
But I liked it. It just screamed arrogance.
Yeah.
And it's again an homage to it's very not word for word, but it's very similar to the throne room scene in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I'm also going to say I liked that they stuck with him being just a person, because I saw the giant version of him in The Force Awakens and I was worried that would be his sort of actual size, and they go with just a man beast. So to have him just be a super powerful dude, I thought was pretty cool. So
it goes downhill.
So I think we should pause there.
Yes.
Maybe turn this into a two-parter.
Yeah.
Because
there's a lot to talk about.
We're going on. There's a lot to talk about.
Okay.
So yeah, tune in next time because there are some good points to come. But oh boy, there are some bad ones.
Yeah, always end on a good note. So yes, we'll be back next week with part 2 of review, I guess, or I'd say potentially just destruction.
Regulated screaming match, perhaps.
Of the Star Wars The Last Jedi. And yes, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. I've been Ollie.
I've been Matt.
Thank you. Just wanted to take this opportunity to say to you guys that if you enjoyed today's show, why don't you follow us on Twitter at 2polished nerds, and that's 2 as a number 2.